Hi. Yeah, sure. Let's get ready for the next session. Okay, so I know some of you might be really excited to get involved in NICE and wondering how can I be part of this? You're in luck today. We've got three past NICE chairs, including the current NICER chair, who's going to walk you through all the steps to become a contributor. So let's dive in. All right. So the first one is which one of you? Me. All right. The first one is going to be Maria, who's the current NICE chair. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Zane. So thank you all again for sticking through for our last couple sessions. And this one is really important because I was walking around and hearing people's ideas already sparking potentially to either be a part as a contributor or making your own nice project. So it's really exciting to hear. So again, you've already been introduced to us three, but just a brief overview. My name is Maria Kalanzis. Again, I'm a fifth-year doctoral student at BGSU in clinical psychology. I'm also a visiting instructor of psychology at St. Mary's College of Maryland. And then Brianna will introduce herself when she comes up. And then Antonio Scariadis is the NICER chair and the past NICE chair. Again, we'll see him in just a bit. So again, we're hoping from this brief session that you can understand, again, the role of a contributor and the annual steps of a NICE project, as well as how to interact with the NICE project post dissemination of the primary project. So how do you get involved in things such as secondary data analysis? How do you get involved in that dissemination process overall? And then also trying to understand NICE both as a research opportunity, again, for instructors and faculty as well as an educational tool. So for folks that are teaching undergrad and graduate students in psychology. And then lastly, how you can become the next NICE chair. So again, we went through this process in a previous session, but just to review, the annual steps of NICE are as follows. So again, in around the July or June to July area, we have a call for proposals, and that proposal deadline ends towards the end of the summer. After that, we review the proposals as a research review committee. We have a standardized rubric, which we are also posting on OSF. After we review projects, we come together, rank them, and then afterwards we select the project. Once that project is selected, that revision process doesn't stop at just the initial review. We actually then go through with folks and we go through with the PI and make sure that the project is up to standards, both for cultural competency as well as, again, just feasibility. Because again, we're not going to make students, for example, if we're getting survey results from a university, we're not going to make them spend 2 hours on a survey, right? So making sure it's feasible as well. And then the other piece too is talking about if the research protocol, or after we review it and it's implemented, that's when we bring in the NICE contributors. And so we provide the research protocol, meaning the survey and the instruction for the survey, including the informed consent, including the debriefing form, everything in that survey to all contributors. After that's done, we then conduct the project, and then afterwards, we then talk about the dissemination process, okay? So I'll go through that in more depth in just a second. And again, all these materials are freely available on the OSF page. So again, as someone said before, you're QR coded out, but please pay attention to this QR code. So this is actually a direct link to NICE Crowd's OSF page. If you've not already gotten this, I highly suggest taking a picture of it right now. So this is going to lay out, again, all the previous projects we've done from the pre-registration stage all the way to the dissemination stage. And then in a second, I'll show you a specific one for this year's project. But you can see like all the previous studies that have been done on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, you can see how to actually click and open a file too. So I know you've already gone through that with the OSF session. So what does it actually mean to be a contributor? And I've had a couple of folks ask this question already. So let's talk it through. So again, you need to, if you're an undergrad or graduate student, you need to have a faculty mentor. So someone that is going to advise you through the contributor process. Okay, and I've already had some folks email me during the breaks to be a contributor, which is so exciting. That shows the eagerness. I love it. So you can take a look at the handouts. So one of the handouts, again, if you're an undergrad or graduate student, you can see that handout on how to actually join as a contributor. And then the faculty handout for being a faculty mentor and what that looks like. But essentially what we're asking you to do is to, sorry, I'm letting some people in the waiting room, is to email the NICE chair and we'll add the email or show the email in just a second, the following information. So your name, where you're coming from institution-wise, the country that your institution resides in, as well as the career stage you're at. So again, if you're a graduate student or undergrad, you get faculty mentor, and then as well as the faculty mentor's name. And also I would also suggest their email as well, their contact information. So we will then add you to the NICE contributor list. So we actually have an Excel sheet where we keep all contributors, and that's what we use to then disseminate, our recruitment for the project. So then you'll be added to that list, as well as added to that project-specific contributor list. So there's two lists, like the overall list, so that every year thereafter, you'll be invited to potentially be a contributor again, or your institution will be asked to be a contributor again, but also for that specific project year. So that is what that looks like in terms of, again, becoming a contributor. Now, actually going through and creating an IRB application and just like actually disseminating the survey and what that looks like, again, is very site specific depending on how your institution does the IRB process. So again, that is why it's so important to have a faculty mentor to walk you through that as well. So to again break this down more specifically, so you submit that proposal to your institution's IRB. You're then learning, again, by disseminating the survey, to design, again, basically see how the measures and the survey measures are not only distributed at your institution, but other institutions from other fellow collaborators that you have. There is some potential to include measures of your own in the study that is very specific on that year. So again, if you're in a project for, for example, this year you're contributing and you want to add measure, that's something that we can maybe discuss. And then not only are you invested then in or part of that sort of data collection phase, but you're also a part of the dissemination of it, meaning the writing phases. So this can look like, again, something like a peer-reviewed journal. Again, we just heard about the wonderful opportunity to publish in the PsyChi journal, as well as posters or oral presentations as well. And now I'm going to turn over to talk more about how actually the NICE system works as kind of a tiered system and looking more into the role of NICE from Brianna.
Thank you, Maria. My name is Brianna. I already briefly introduced myself, third year PhD student at Adelphi University. So I will begin discussing our tier system, so how we give out authorship for these projects. So we aim to have a fair and transparent authorship system. So instead of reserving higher authorship spots for just one or two people, or that high authorship spot just for faculty, we use this system based on the level of contribution to the project. So the more someone contributes to the manuscript, the higher they're going to go in authorship order. So in the diagram here, it shows the arrows pointing upwards from tier 5 to tier 1, indicating those increasing levels of involvement. So the first tier is typically for those working very closely with principal investigators. The second tier is for those still involved in all stages of the process: data collection, recruitment, statistical analysis, manuscript drafting. And then the third tier is for those with lesser contributions. So the minimum requirement to be an author that we already briefly discussed here is equivalent to a tier 5. So that's becoming a contributor, recruiting. It's been about 100 to 250 participants so far the past few years. That's the minimum requirement at your own institution with the help of your faculty advisor and the NICE chair. And then you automatically will get authorship after recruiting those people. And then it's your choice totally if you want to move up or or not, and that's fine either way. So this is a great opportunity for students who's never done research before. You're going to get exposure to IRB applications, whatever that looks like at your school, and also different recruitment strategies that definitely differ between institution that you'll have to work out with your advisor. So this is the final part of our presentation, and we're going to talk about some opportunities available to graduate and undergraduate students, as well as faculty mentors. I'll go over the educational opportunities that NICE can really seamlessly integrate into, and then Tony, who you'll hear from via video, will talk about how to become a contributor to this year's project, submit your own protocol for the 2025-2026 academic year, and other ways to get involved, like joining the committee or becoming the next NICE chair. Okay, so before we get into it, just to point out, everything we're talking about today is in our NICE newsletter, and you guys have received this in your online information already. It's actually, I think, also in a printed handout as well. And yeah, so how can we use NICE as an educational tool? So first, it can be used as a really valuable teaching resource. You can use it in experimental design courses or research methods classes. And during my time as chair, there was a couple faculty members that did exactly this. They incorporated the protocol, the ready-made protocol, into one of their courses. They had students break up into different groups, and they kind of did a deep dive on each of the measures that were included, looking at the literature, the validation of these measures previously. And then as part of the assignment, they had to brainstorm different research questions other than the ones that the original authors created. They had to formulate their hypotheses, and they explored what questions could they answer with those available measures, because we do have to stay within the confines of the protocol. We can always add measures to it when using it in this way, but we can't remove it. So you have to work within it. And so over the semester, they conducted literature reviews and even used convenience sampling to collect some data from their campus, and they learned how to clean that data, analyze it, and several continued on after the semester was over and wound up presenting it at the student conference they had at that institution. We also see students using this as an independent research project, senior capstones, honors theses, and one undergraduate in particular is actually working currently on their own project, answering a question related to victimization by teachers, which was my year's topic. And they are planning to present it, I believe, next month also at their student conference that fulfilled their, I believe, honors thesis requirement. So very exciting. And then, so what makes NICE particularly advantageous, I think, is the ready-made research framework that it comes with. So as we all know, it's very time-consuming to design a robust study from scratch. So instead, you can use the NICE protocol that already has all the carefully curated measures already included, eliminating the process of developing different tools, seeking out tools, allowing students to truly just focus on the research process itself. Hypothesis generation, literature reviews, data collection, and really get deep into each of those aspects. And moreover, I think NICE connects people together that you maybe never would meet in a situation otherwise. By participating in NICE, students have the chance to collaborate with international researchers and gain authorship on a publication that's really representing such a broad, diverse perspective, which is awesome and really a rare opportunity. So not only are we helping to enhance academic profiles, but also graduate school applications and giving hands-on experience that kind of mirrors the actual practice of science once you get into your career. And based on the literature, finally, I'll say that we know from research, undergrad research experiences help in a variety of ways. It fosters community, it actually improves cognitive and personal growth, and also helps in the form of developing one's professional identity. So through working with their faculty advisors, students are learning practical aspects of research, but also doing it themselves and producing it themselves. So it has the ability to improve confidence by doing it on their own, their confidence, starting to think like a scientist, but they're literally becoming one in real time by joining our projects. So I think NICE can serve as a really ideal platform for these experiences, creating this community of practice and not only advancing science on a global scale, students are actually doing while joining or while being a part of NICE, but they're gaining these intrinsic benefits throughout their education while integrating NICE into the curriculum that they have. And I think Tony will close us out and let you guys know how to contribute to this year's project if you're interested.
Become a NICE contributor.
Volume, please.
The next NICE project will be selected in mid-August. If you're interested, please reach out to the NICE chair via email, sharing your name, institution, and current affiliations. Maria will be happy to add you to our contributors list. If you're a student, you will need a faculty sponsor to assist you with the IRB process and oversee data collection. But don't worry, if you're having trouble finding a faculty member, feel free to reach out to Maria. She will do her best to support you in connecting with one. So this is a great opportunity for students. I remember myself as an undergraduate student back in 2019. I was fortunate to contribute to 2 NICE projects, one as a first-year author. Through these experiences, I gained hands-on skills in data collection, the IRB process, manuscript writing and editing, and I also responded to reviewers' comments, all while collaborating with a team of researchers at my university in Cyprus and internationally. Submit your own crowd proposal. This is a fantastic opportunity to have your research conducted across multiple countries. Proposals are due by July 31st. You can scan the QR code to access the OSF pre-registration form or email Maria for a direct link. So the QR code will lead you to our NICE OSF page where you can find the pre-registration form. When formulating your hypothesis, consider a broad, inclusive, cross-cultural approach to align with NICE's international scope. Transfer all necessary materials into the pre-registration template and submit it to Maria by the deadline. If selected, the next NICE chair will be here to support you in building a cross-cultural network of contributors who will collect data according to your research protocol. Amazing, right? As a principal investigator, please ensure you obtain permission from copyright holders for any scales or measures you plan to use and translate during the project, a consideration crucial already from the project's design phase. And become a NICE committee member. This voluntary 2-year position invites application from graduate students and faculty members who are passionate about supporting the NICE initiative. So key responsibilities include reviewing and offering feedback on crowd project proposals. This is done usually in late summer. Managing and contributing to the NICE project of the year and assisting the NICE chair with contributor recruitment and promotion of the NICE crowd project within your professional networks. To apply for this position, please submit a cover letter outlining your interest along with your CV and email them to the NICE chair by March 15th, 2025. And become the next NICE chair. This is a great opportunity for graduate students. I would describe this role has an extensive training in several important characteristics that a prospective psychologist must have, such as communication skills, project management skills, research skills, and many others. You also get a lot of mentoring experience as you have to guide and help students understand their roles. Please answer the following questions in your cover letter about your experience, your knowledge and skills, and send them to Psychi Research Director, Professor Zane Zhang, along with your CV by March 15th, 2025. So don't worry, these questions can also be found in our Ignites newsletter, which you have already received as a handout. If elected, we will be here to help you and guide you in whatever you need and help you adjust to your role.
So again, thank you for sticking around with us for this last part. Just want to have a direct link for the actual projects pre-registration. If you want to take a look at that, that's a nice direct link for that project as well.
So just a quick wrap up in conclusion, we talked about the annual steps and procedures of NICE, what the contributor's role is, and some other academic opportunities that is available through NICE beyond becoming a contributor. So we're happy to take some questions now. I think this is probably the last good chunk of time that we have for questions. So if you guys want to come up to the microphone, yeah. Sure. Oh, sure, of course. How about I'll leave this QR code up indefinitely? Okay. Yeah.
I do. I wrote it down way at the beginning. All right, so back from the start. Oh, hold on. Where's the lever on this? Yeah, it's not on.
The mic's not working.
If it's just quiet, that's fine. So given
Hello.
how one of the, oh, there.
Sorry. Do you want this one?
No, it's working now. They just flashbanged me a little with that one. So given how dominant weird populations, as they're called, what I want to focus in on is that rich aspect. In our current format, it still seems like we're reaching out predominantly to more affluent communities, even if it is affluent for that region. What ideas and initiatives do we have going forward to reach out to more disadvantaged communities?
I know we have as the years go on, and particularly I saw a boom in the number of countries and different populations coming from various socioeconomic statuses. When Tony actually became chair, it really took a boom because I think his perspectives and his connections internationally really spread the word about NICE, I think, in ways that us coming from the US just couldn't do logistically and just, not our culture and background. And so I've seen that since that year, we have a lot of repeat faculty and students and researchers come back. So I've seen a lot more diverse spread in areas besides the US, which I think that's kind of where we got started in, but I've now seen it spread pretty wide since then. But I do think as one area of improvement I'd like to see is the reach, and to reach those people that have never heard of Psych-Hi, are not affiliated, don't know anybody involved in NICE. Because right now the way we do advertise is primarily through NICE and then just listservs from word of mouth. So I don't also think that's probably not enough to get the true perspective that we want to see. So yeah, thank you for that question.
Yeah, I wanted to focus in on it because, full disclosure, my school didn't even really know what Psych-Chi was until this semester where we started really raising the profile of it all.
Yeah.
So as a result, NICE is just not on the radar. And we are primarily a Hispanic serving institution, a lot of lower income people. And I feel like the more initiatives that we have to reach, even in America, our less advantaged populations, the more we do, the better.
That's a wonderful point. I actually I know people that had similar experiences. They're like, "How are you?" And these were my peers in a school in New York asking, "How did you find out about NICE?" I think I happened to get an email and not delete it too quick and actually read it. But it's very quick to just delete those listserv emails, and I think since we're including non-Psych-Chi members, we need to advertise in a different way, right? Like NICE is trying to target and include people in different ways. So I think, and that's one of the missions of the NICER initiative now, is to figure out what ways to do this better. So thank you.
Well, for one thing, I'm glad you said that when you did. It didn't fully sink in. Yes, we are open to non-Psych-Chi people. And that's a big initiative that I can take home now because you said that.
Oh,
So thank you.
thanks. Thank you.
Hello, hello. So I wanted to know about funding for these different projects, the NICER project, regional, and then the NICE project and the NICE crowd. How does external funding or internal funding work in terms of propelling these projects forward, especially in institutions like mine, where we're very teaching heavy and we don't have the bandwidth to do this unless it's in our own time, or we have to apply for external funding to get course release. That's more on like a faculty post-grad side, but I wanted to see if you could speak to some of that in terms of funding sources.
Sure. So in terms of funding, I know we have a rather small budget within within NICE itself that kind of is used for if a measurement issue pops up and we have to use that funding in order to move the project forward. But it is not the default to internally fund NICE projects. We very much encourage external grants, and you can get whatever grant you get, you can bring to the NICE protocol and utilize in the project. So we encourage you to do that because sometimes you need to do that just for recruitment alone and for measures alone. So that's the experience I have with funding. I don't know if Maria, you have more to add to that.
I wanted to see, has there been initiatives or task forces where you apply for funding together to fund a NICE project?
Ooh.
That is a really good question. And to my knowledge, I don't think so, but I don't think that means no, we can't. And I know Psych-Chi actually has like designated funds for research projects. I don't know if that specifically could be for the NICE project, but I know there's a lot of different external funds, and it would be a great idea for folks maybe apply to like some regional funds, even through Psych-Chi or through other networks too. And I will say, I know internally you can always ask like your psychology department, or if they have an endowed fund, or if the institution itself has a fund. I know especially for like faculty support funds, if that could work. So trying to find different ways for that too.
So current projects right now have just been funded by the primary author. Is that right? So that I'm just wondering about how.
Like my project, for example, didn't need funding.
Okay.
The measures used were free, and it's through Qualtrics. They had it at their campus.
Okay.
So really nothing came up that we needed funding for. In the past, I think we've brought in external grants and have used some internal funds.
For recruitment, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
About recruitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know most of the projects that have been done, or preponderance of them, have been through universities where you can sample through Psych 100 courses or research method courses. But I'm pretty sure there's at least one project that didn't utilize that route all the way. And that's where I think you would use those funds to try to get that community members, right? That are not, and talking about, again, that the low SCS aspect, I think that's one way in which you can tap into community members that are not attending college.
Thank you so much.
Psych-Chi has sponsored research grads and faculty who are Psych-Chi advisors. And those funds certainly should be able to use a NICE project or any other. So if participating in NICE is contingent on paying participants, that would be a legitimate reason. to apply.
That's a really great point, and I want to highlight that because that was a SciChi grant was the first grant I ever got, and it is way less scary than you may think. It is nothing like an R01 NIH grant by any means, so it's a really cool way to like get practice writing your first grant and maybe getting some of that money. So.
Hi, so my school doesn't operate on the traditional semester system. We use quarters, which means a lot of folks, myself included, will be graduating a little bit early, but that puts us in like March, so like the middle of most other people's winter semester. So I was just wondering if NICE is still looking for contributors who are maybe post-grad or like between programs.
So if you can work, I've had this come up a couple times, that someone had maybe just graduated, weren't yet in grad school. If you can still have a connection or keep that connection with your faculty at your school and they're okay with maybe taking the lead internally if need be with the IRB process, with you, of course, helping, but maybe with them dealing with the logistics still being at the school, I think that's totally possible. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Hi. With all of the focus that we have on research, what is PsyChi? What is NICE? What are all of these organizations doing to help us like get our research out there as far as like in between these organizations? Like, is there a listserv that we can access? I know a lot of the grants are not accessible, or some of the grants, I should say, are not accessible for use for recruitment. So are there other means by which we could use these resources as we're contributing to them to get our surveys available and for recruitment?
That's a very good question. I just want to point out, I think some of the questions that have been asked today are also great points for us as a NICE committee to revise and work on and think about. So thank you. That's like one question I'm like, absolutely. I think so at this point, I know that there are listers that exist in terms of knowing the updates of NICE and PsyChi, and we do release a newsletter at least once a year, if not more than that, about the updates of NICE in general and PsyChi. In terms of being updated or how to maybe, I'm just asking your question with the question of how to integrate maybe your own project ideas into NICE. Is that what you're wondering?
Not so much so our own projects that are up and running as we're trying to recruit for participants.
Yes, and like using the crowd as sort of source. So I think that's a great question. So I know, again, with our OSF and all of our research processes laid out and kind of the framework being there, as Brianna mentioned, I know you can quite literally take our process and replicate it. There's no reason why you can't in terms of like the pre-registration templates and things like that. In terms of connecting, I think another piece is, again, potentially adding measures of your own. And again, that's what the NICE crowd opportunity has for research as well. And John?
We have a largely underutilized way for people to post studies that they have IRB approval for to collect data, and people can go and volunteer for studies too. So it's something that has existed for a while that hasn't had a lot of uptake. But if I'm interpreting your question correctly, that does exist as a resource. It's just underutilized.
Studies.
What's that?
Studies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to give the name?
Also something that Brianna had mentioned about wanting a way for people involved in the NICE project to still like check in with each other that isn't the formal way. Is there every
We haven't, to my knowledge, in my year, no.
that would be the perfect sort of medium for that, but that would also like one of your, the sections on that Discord could also be that like if people are doing their own surveys or have their own studies going on, they can post those there. They're like, hey, someone's actually
That's a great point.
Just one of the
Thank you. I'm going to write that down. Thank you.
Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Mari Mathis. I am a senior at Georgia Southern, and I actually will be graduating in December. I don't recognize your name. You just kind of asked like what I had wanted to ask. I did plan to take a break after graduating, so I was just trying to see if you guys had any recommendations on how to still navigate that, though I'm not in school, but I still want to strengthen my skills. And I also kind of wanted to ask, how else could I contribute if I feel like I'm still strengthening my skills before joining NICE? See if you had any more recommendations on that.
So joining NICE, I would say the committee or if you can get maybe a couple other of your peers that maybe want to contribute to the project together. So it's kind of a first experience for you all. If again, like you are still connected with that faculty advisor. But I would also say if maybe you want to just get to know NICE a little bit more before becoming a contributor, reach out to Maria and see, because there's ways to maybe join the committee or join in a more informal way just to see how we do things and to learn our protocols. And like, we're more than happy to always like connect with you guys. And if a certain opportunity that we have doesn't perfectly fit with what you're looking for, still please email us and we'll try to do anything we can to like make something work so you can learn the process before maybe diving right in.
Okay.
So yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, hi. So this is kind of, yeah, NICE and the open, what are we calling it? Open Science
Framework.
OSF.
Yeah.
There we go. These are resources that are available to not Psychi members, correct? Okay. But if you want to participate in a NICE project, you're probably going to be a psychology student.
Doesn't have to be a psychology student.
Okay. Because I'm thinking even like we go to Texas Women's University and they have like a music therapy program, but it's housed in like half of it's in music. You basically graduate with like a degree in music and a degree in psychology.
Cool.
And so there's that interdisciplinary aspect, but even thinking about like our social work program and how closely related a lot of those projects are, who might be interested in this type of thing besides psychology students, but that could also broaden our reach for like students or input other perspectives.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the limitation, like if there are limitations or, you know what I mean?
Yes. That's another great question. And as a discipline, I know we can be extremely siloed sometimes. And I think interdisciplinary people coming in and not only learning, but contributing to the research process is super important. I would say the baseline knowledge I would believe they would have to have is knowing the scientific method from a psychology perspective. But even, again, as NICE as a learning tool, if we had folks, for example, that are coming from this music therapy group, I'm assuming they've had, a research methods course, or they've had some sort of course on, psychology as a science. And
basically graduating with a degree in both.
In both things, right?
In both fields, yeah.
And that's awesome. And I think they would bring a unique perspective of that additive piece of having a background in music, right? And maybe, again, if they want to propose a project that is more interdisciplinary, who's to say that's not an appropriate or a great project? But again, as long as it's following that scientific method of psychology, I think that would be the baseline. I also could think of someone coming from like a sociology background and wanting to do a study. I think that'd be awesome as well. Again, trying to fit their question into a psychological method, right? Using surveys, that's another piece to it. But in my opinion, I think that would be great.
Okay, awesome. And then kind of related, like it's been a long life. What the OCF, OSF.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't know.
Yes, you're
The frameworks. There we go. We had discussed earlier that is a tool that's available that anybody can use, anybody in any science field that's trying to just manage their project. Do we see that like more, what other fields do we see using that, like
Like
tool.
using OSF.
Yeah.
In my experience and opinion, I think a lot of the like physical sciences have been trying to push using it. So things like biology, physics, chemistry, again, to my understanding. In terms of the social sciences, I've seen it done in psychology, in sociology. But I think just because your field has not been represented in open science doesn't mean it can't be a thing. I know Dr. Nosek just talked about qualitative research being sort of exemplified in an open science framework and what that looks like. So non-traditional, quote unquote, methods for understanding science and measuring outcomes or things are trying to be more utilized. So I think, again, it's not limited to any field in my understanding.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's really any areas of science that involve data. So if you think about data, there's a transparency, and we definitely want to encourage any discipline. And back to your question, I think one thing that we talk a lot about at NICE is to increase diversity. That diversity also includes academic backgrounds and also disciplines. We really want to represent people and also topics that haven't been traditionally explored. So it doesn't really just doesn't have to be psychology. It could be any disciplines.
Is there anything similar to this, like a proposal that's, you know, more STEM oriented that I could take back to my university and give to the faculty as like a viable option for them to use with their students?
Absolutely. Well, I think I'll let you
I
to.
think-
I mean, there's a lot.
There's so many.
Yeah, I don't know. Can OSF be used for
So OSF,
anything?
yeah, so OSF, I've used OSF for
Yeah.
I've used OSF for my dissertation. I've used it for external projects. You
Yeah.
can sign up for an account and it's free to sign up, again, to my understanding.
Yeah.
And I think if you go through I would assume they're doing things similarly. Like, for example, their respective honor societies or respective organizations, like a biological society, chemistry society, we would hope that they'd be integrated in some sort of the OSF. But again, it's completely free. So a step would be to share the psychologies OSF as this is what one field is doing. I wonder what your field is doing, and maybe look into that for them as a next step.
For sure. But from where I'm sitting, where I'm like, I'm just an undergrad, right? And there is not that much support in general, or you're not ever heard as much. How do you,
Yes.
like, you carry more weight bringing that message than I
Right.
do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as someone I'm from North Central College, is a small liberal arts school. We're predominantly first gen, low income, and myself is that. So I know being an undergrad, I was super scared of faculty, period, not in a mean way to faculty, but just can be really daunting and really scary. And I think one way in which I know we could help is NICE. I know I'm more than willing to do this and volunteer myself. Like, if you need someone to help elevate your voice of, we should promote open science in our department, I could be tagged in an email or follow up on the email to one of your faculty members. I'm more than happy to meet with you and talk with, like, how could we facilitate this conversation? But knowing that putting your voice out and taking a chance on something, the worst they can say is no, and then you're like, okay.
I mean,
But
in my personal, I work at the university as well. I'm not scared of faculty, but
Okay.
you still, I'm sure everybody has experienced
the power dynamics,
the
which
power
are so
dynamics
real.
regardless. So, the
Absolutely.
same message coming from another person who is not me just carries a different
Oh, it definitely does.
weight. So I was wondering if there is some sort of like proposal or anything together that
Mhm.
can be shared that, I
Absolutely.
would
Even
love to do that, to like spread the message and get more
Mhm.
of those diverse backgrounds.
Mhm.
But that's not
Absolutely.
something that, like, if we don't have faculty
Mhm.
through Psychi or anything,
Mhm.
like elevating that, then
Mhm.
like, how do we do it?
It's so difficult. And I think having our website and having those resources, the OSF page, and like sharing that and saying this is a credible source that's been using OSF, that's been using the pre-registration templates, again, builds more quote unquote credibility to your statement or to your thing you're trying to post to faculty. But if you're feeling like you're kind of hitting a wall, this is where you reach out and maybe then become like more affiliated with the NICE project, right? I talked about how at my institution, which is great, it serves a predominantly homogenous backgrounds, right? So I wanted to get that experience working with diverse populations, right? And that's one way you can do it. So when you reach a wall in your institution, branching out is an option as well. So again, my perspective, but totally, it's so hard. Yes. Yeah.
And also, I just want to mention that all information related to NICE is going to be available on OSF, and that you can take back to your faculty, and the information is available in Spanish as well.
Hello. So jumping back to NICE, is there any way to get like a sneak peek of what the topic is for this year? Because like you can use the data correct to not manipulate, but to use to make other use for other projects. Is there any way to know just to kind of get an idea like, oh, our psychology club and our psych club could really use this. I know that there's undergraduates who are interested in this. Is that a thing?
So are you talking about for this year's project,
Yes.
correct? Yes. So this is, and sorry, I was wording it maybe weird. So this is the project for this year. So the cross-cultural validation and latent profiles of the trauma appraisal questionnaire. That is the project, and the actual sneak peek into it, I know I talked about briefly, which is on the PowerPoint, but if you go to the OSF link, you actually can open up the pre-registration template and see the methods, the research questions, what measurements they're hoping to use, and step by step. And you can absolutely reach out to me on the PsyChi email and follow up with any questions you have.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We do have a few more minutes if anyone has other questions.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
make a statement for where you can find more information. There is on the PsyChi website a link for Ignite in particular. The materials are all there, linked online. And if you are at a Hispanic serving institution or you have faculty or students who speak Spanish and they want to see the materials in Spanish, we are still in the process. We didn't have anyone register to come in person who was speaking primarily Spanish, so we put that off a little bit. But those are they may be up already, but they're going up very soon with the materials to be in Spanish and English on the Ignite website.
They're already up. It sounds
Okay,
Yeah.
they're already up.
Hey, I just have a quick question about NICE as well as OSF. So a little bit more technical question, but data security. So my IRB is very particular about how data is collected and how it's stored. So how is it being protected for our participants?
Yeah. So for my project, and this might be a little different each year, just depending on the PIs, my project, our PIs are housing all the data that comes in.
Okay.
So when a contributor's ready, we give them a Qualtrics link that the PIs created that's separate just for their institution. And then as the data comes in, PIs have direct access. You as the contributor can always get that data at any point by contacting us with just the promise that you're not going to publish it before the main manuscript is published. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you. So I'm interested in like applying for becoming a contributor. And I have a faculty mentor who would say yes. But my question is like, how feasible do you think this would be doing it just independently with as like myself and a faculty mentor? Or would it be better to have a whole team?
You said without a faculty or
With-
just with a faculty?
Just two people as
Yeah.
opposed to like having a more broad research team.
I think it's very feasible. I would actually say most people that contribute, I don't know about most. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I would say at least half of the people that contribute are doing it just them and their faculty. I don't know if you've realized it, maybe even more. So yeah, it's totally doable. Yeah, do you have a follow-up?
The other
Yeah.
question was, for like, one of the requirements was recruiting like a couple, like 100 or 200 people. But my university is like only a few hundred people,
Mhm.
let alone like less than that psych majors. So like recruiting like Psych 100 classes, usually we get really small samples.
Yeah.
So how would that work out?
Yeah, so this when I was in Columbia too, it wasn't enough to just get it from the school. So that comes up a lot. And what we did was we actually did like phone calls. And for those who didn't have internet access, we contacted different community centers around the city to try to be as mimicking of the whole entire sample that we would wound up getting at the end of the study. So we did phone interviews that if they didn't have an internet access, we would just ask them the questions over the phone. So we just got a bit creative in terms of the recruitment strategies. putting it up on different online forums. So that's the cool thing. Like you're getting these measures and, you know, the PIs did the lit review for you. There's a lot done for you, but then the recruitment strategies is where, and the IRB application, of course, is where you can get a little creative based on what your needs are. So, yeah.
My favorite data question not to do with the person that
Thank you. And I also want to say one more thing about the data security question, actually. So what I explained, that's how we did it. This when I was the chair, but when I was a contributor in 2020 at Columbia, their IRB was also very, very strict. And I actually had to have a data confidentiality agreement form drafted. And I worked with the chair at Corey at that time, and it was fine. It worked out quite well. So even though it changes a bit year to year in terms of how you're working with the data, like I think we've seen a few different things come up and we've managed. So yeah, of course. Yeah, all right. Thank you, everybody. If there's no more questions, I think we are ready for one of our final presentations for the day. So thank you for your attention.